Good afternoon again, class. Um, Last meeting, in the previous lecture, we were discussing about supply chain analysis. Now, for this very short lecture, I'm going to give you an example of how to conduct and how to make use of the information in the entire supply chain analysis procedure. Now, as we have, as I have mentioned in the previous lecture, the supply chain analysis involves first is prioritization, then supply chain mapping. The supply chain mapping involves the implementation or the use of the 6K questions. One of those is you have who are the key customers and what are the product requirements, okay? The activities within the chain, the players, and the logistic issues, and then you have also the external influences and the chain performance analysis. So these are the things involved in the actual supply chain analysis. Now this time, I'm going to give you a very quick rundown of an example of how to execute or implement a supply chain analysis using the example of or using the case of Abaca fiber industry. Now, this study, we have done this study in sometime before the pandemic or even before Yolanda, but still the data in here that are available or that are being used still still applies with in terms of like the in other words, it does not change the conclusion yet. The price of input output may change, but the trend of the data is still the same. Okay, so I'm going to give you a quick rundown of the as an example of the Abaca fiber industry supply chain analysis. Okay, the first one is this study is talking about supply chain improvement for Abaca fiber industry in the Philippines, phase one and evaluation research. Okay, remember supply chain improvement for Abaca industry, Abaca fiber industry in the Philippines. Why did we say in the Philippines when in fact uh, the entire country is so huge? So what made us be more confident in terms of using in the Philippines? Let us try to see the configuration. Now this study involves only uh, three very important abaca growing regions in the Philippines. We have Bicol region, okay? We have Eastern Visayas and Caraga region. But this is the one in red color, no, in red color. This is the Caraga region, okay? So, and of course, there is some Caraga region and a little portion of the Davao region, no. So, in this particular in this particular say study, the prioritization of the region has been done before. Has been done preliminarily. In other words, or in an a priori data gathering. In other words, we sort of identify what are the abaca growing regions in the Philippines. Actually, there are 13 regions considered. But if you look at the data generated from Abaca region, Bicol region, Eastern Visayas, and Caraga region in terms of abaca fiber production and in terms of abaca, uh, abaca processing activity. These regions, Bicol, Eastern Visayas, and Caraga region, constitutes about 80% of the total abaca production in the Philippines. So that means by looking at these regions, we can already learn something like what is happening to the abaca industry in the Philippines. That's why we we put in this title the supply chain analysis for abaca fiber industry, precisely because the regions under consideration actually almost comprising almost 100%, 80.9 something, no? And the only remaining regions cannot change the conclusion anymore because these are minor abaca producing regions. Okay, now in terms of the supply chain dynamics, okay, in terms of the supply chain dynamics, we have this say supply chain map. This is an a priori supply chain map. Now we have here the key players in the abaca production industry or abaca industry. We have Chingbi, we have Tag Fibers, we have SPMI, we have Alindeco, and we have Newtech and Manila Cordage. But SPMI, uh, Chingbi, and Manila Hemp actually are all of the same as a firm. In other words, they are sister companies. That's why we only consider here SPMI because SPMI is connected to Chingbi and Chingbi connected to Manila Hemp, but Tag Fibers is different. Okay, Tag Fibers, and also you also have Alindeco, Newtech, and Manila Cordage. They are different. Okay, so there are only five distinct abaca fiber, say abaca fiber supply chains studied here, and this five abaca fiber supply chains being considered in this study, as we have said, is spread across the three major abaca growing regions in the Philippines. And as I said, these are also the these are also the major players or the industry champions, supply chain champions that controls almost entirely the abaca fiber trading in the Philippines. Okay. First is we have looking at the situation of the abaca fiber industry, we have some logistic issues. Okay, the logistic issues that are involved here actually ranges from disease infestation, and also there are also farm level, farm level um, issues and concerns, and up to a certain point where there are market considerations, there are market related issues and concerns in the abaca fiber industry. Remember, there are three regions under consideration, or we have studied: Bicol, Visayas, and Caraga. Okay, so these are the X here marks whether that particular issues or concerns is true to all the regions. You might say, for example, that disease infestation is true to all regions in the country. But you will notice also that, for example, discriminate pricing scheme, in other words, bias pricing scheme is only true to Bicol region, but in Eastern Visayas and all other regions, there are no discriminate pricing scheme. But in some regions, there are also like, for example, unstable weather condition. It's only true to Eastern Visayas and Bicol because of Catanduanes and Eastern Visayas that are uh, actually within the eastern seaboard of the country or in the Pacific region. Okay, so these are the logistic issues. Now, let's say, for example, disease. These are the situations where abaca uh, um, infested by abaca banchitap really could appear something like this, as given in this picture. Now, in terms of mapping, okay, in terms of mapping, we also identify various players within a particular supply chain. But who are the players? We have the farmers in the responsible in the production, barangay traders, municipal traders, and the buying stations or GBE. GBE meaning grading and baling establishment. This is where abaca fiber is being, for example, prepared and baled ready for, say, processing in the pulping in the factory. Okay, so in other words, the entire stretch of the abaca supply chain, from production up to the market, up to the final market, we have these four major intermediaries, and then each intermediary you have like different, say for example, cost they face, and also different pricing, say, situation. So that in the case of for example, in the case of the farmer, their net income is only about 60 centavos per kilo. Okay, and then when it comes to barangay traders, you have you have almost 6 pesos per kilo net income, and in the municipal trader you have 2 pesos per kilo, and in the GBE they have 5 pesos per kilo. Like looking at this particular disparity in income, you will say that there is a there is an asymmetric situation when it comes to pricing, distribution of price and cost and price at the farm level. The farmers only gain less than a peso net income, while the traders are gaining more than uh, twice or even say four times as much as the income from the farmers. So how is that? That is an object of intervention. Now, uh, after the GBE, after the GBE, all fibers at the GBE level will be channeled to the processor, which now process abaca into pulp. Now, the boundary of the analysis is only up to GBE. Why? Because in a supply chain analysis, the boundary should be uh, should define up to where the product stops in terms of final market, where the nature of the product or the state of the product is still the same. What does it mean? Meaning to say, if it is fiber starting at the farmer's level, it should end also as fiber, not pulp, because pulp is a different product nature already, different product category. So that means to say, for as long as the category or the nature of the product does not change, the flow from the farmer up to the last segment of the market chain, where fiber is still a fiber, then that is the boundary. Okay, we no longer consider the processor because the processor produces pulp. That is a different product already. Okay, so the same thing, we have this one, efficiency in the Chingbi trading supply chain. Chingbi trading supply chain. This is Chingbi, where you have net, uh, where in a Chingbi supply chain, net loss ang farmer. No, farmer has a net loss of 23 pesos, and then you have net income from barangay trader, and then you have also net income from GBE. How come there is net loss? Okay, the net loss has two sides of the same coin. Net loss because if we cost everything at the farmers level, their labor, their everything, the return to labor is very low. Okay, it also explains why many of the farmers in Bicol, particularly in Catanduanes, are already transferring to another product because there is the uh, the 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 average return to their labor is really very poor. Okay, so you have the barangay trader is earning 2 pesos. That means to say at uh, the price at the farmers level is really very low. No, it's very, very low. And then we have also another, say, for example, illustration where as we have said, as I have emphasized before, in a supply chain analysis, supply chain performance, we identify, okay, we compare or identify and compare the supply chain performance of each supply chain. Meaning to say, when you say supply chain performance, how does it, how does it, how does, uh, how does all the players perform? No, for example, Tag Fibers, Manila Him, in Catanduanes, and Chingmi, for example, corporation, you have a uh, a supply chain performance. No, for example, a typical say for example, sales or revenue income in a Tag Fibers, and also you have Manila Hemp, or even in Chingbi, in Sorsogon. You have here from farmers level, a 6,000 pesos nga sales and revenue will entail them about a net income of about 125 pesos. Okay, 125 125 pesos, which is net loss. Okay, in the case of the farmers, while in the case of Manila Hemp, they have an income of what, uh, 8 8,000, and in Chingbi they have a net loss also of 4,000. Okay, so this is at the farmers level. So that means to say the focus of intervention must be at the farmers level in order to what? In order to improve their income potential. And then let's go to the barangay traders. Okay, with a sales volume of uh, sales volume of 782,000, and then this is 1 million, and this is 1.2 million. At the barangay trader, how come the volume is so huge? The volume is so huge because it is assembly point. Okay, barangay traders. Total cost of 600, and then down the line they have a net profit, a net income of 117,000. Okay, 117,000, and also 400,000 and 96,000 for Manila Hemp and Chingvi respectively. And down the line, as you see, you have here a chain performance. At the GBE level, okay, at the GBE level, sales of 25 million, GBE level at Manila Hemp is 66 million, and so down the line, they have total cost of 22 million. Okay, now the total cost of 22 million, and then there is transaction cost. That means to say friction, leakages along the chain. That means transaction costs are unnecessary costs. So i-deduct ni mo sa imong income. So net income is actually 2 million, okay? 2 million, 2,098, 928,000, okay? So that is net income or net loss, okay? Because 25 million minus 22 million, and then minus 59,000, you have 2,098,000. And then that the same is true. This is 7 million ang net income sa sa GBE at the Chingbi and also at the Manila Hemp. Now, you have return to investment of 13%. Now we have here a an analysis of supply chain performance. Okay, that means to say you have here an actual cost. Okay, actual cost minus potential cost. How do we arrive at this particular value? Now this actual cost is actually an addition. Okay, this actual cost is an addition of the total cost. Okay, total cost you have here, and then uh, you have uh, a total cost of 2,285, and then you have a total cost at the for example, total cost at the municipal trader, and the total cost from the uh, what from the tagpa from the say for example barangay traders, adding the entire cost, this actual, you have 22 million, and the potential cost. What is this potential cost? Okay, potential cost is the cost of the processing or handling the fiber without transaction cost. That means to say these are frictionless transaction. Okay, that means if you divide, for example, okay, if you divide, you have uh, uh, potential cost divided by actual cost, you get this 99 efficiency rating. And then you have also in Manila Hemp 97% rating. And then you have here, you have Chingbi, you also have 99% rating. What is this? Okay, what is this? How do we interpret this? Meaning to say, you have in in uh, in uh, in in this particular supply chain, tag fibers, it's the amount of transaction cost is actually very minimal comparatively with the total or actual, or shall we say, actual cost, okay, or actual say potential cost. Meaning to say, there is the transaction cost or the unnecessary cost involved is only very low compared to the potential cost, no, without transaction cost, which means what, there is almost like an efficient supply chain. But we should also look at the individual performance of each player. Looking at the individual performance, it is the farmer that is far at a loss than all the other players. That means after we look at the from individual chain performance of this different supply chain, we look at where are we going to do an intervention to improve the supply chain. Now, in this case, we look at or zero in on the farmers' supply chain segment. Why? Because the farmers themselves are actually incurring net loss. Okay, they are actually incurring a net loss in the process because of the very low transaction cost, a very, very high transaction cost with very poor or a very highly affected by various logistics, internal and external influences. Okay, so you will notice that the costing here is per transaction, per supply chain. In other words, if the supply chain is very inefficient, the supply chain is very ineffective, the market will not anymore patronize that particular supply chain, then everybody in the chain will suffer. So that means really when we look at supply chain analysis, we have to look at not only the entire stretch of the chain, but we look at also the individual performance of each player along the chain so that we would know where our intervention should be targeted and focused in order to make the chain seamless, if not well improved in terms of efficiency. Okay, are there room for improvement in this particular case? Yes, of course there are. So it is basically at the farmer's level where there is low productivity. Okay, low productivity. Farmers are producing low volume in terms of fiber yield. That's why very low po ang iyang return. While the traders are gaining so much because dito man sa ila mo accumulate. Then, as they also accumulate the volume, they also approaches economies of scale. Hence, makagain din sila of profit. Okay? So, areas for improvement in this case, we have establishment of accredited sources of disease-free planting material because of disease problem. And then organizing producer and or marketing clusters. And then you have training of farmers on grading and standard because many of the farmers selling abaca to the various traders are actually of poor quality. Well, if the quality is good, it will command a high price also at the traders level. So there were even farmers that a shank of abaca fiber, kanang sa kabangan ba abaca fiber, gi patimbang dito. Okay, bugat man. Pagbukhan pa sa abaca na ibato sa taliwala in the middle of the shank of the hunk of fiber na ibato para mabugat pagka very disastrous say for example style of farmers because they only have a very uh, they have poor productivity in terms of fiber yield. That's why they resort to all sorts of different cheating and shirking mechanism. And then you have providing also alternative activities and our livelihood activities and other value interventions. For abaca that is not performing very well, like for example in Catanduanes, livelihood improvement should be done in that particular areas. Okay? And then you have also expansion of abaca plantation and encourage replanting using improved varieties and design and development of pilot testing and portable hand stripping device. Okay? And then rehabilitation of uh, various areas of abaca, say for example, areas where whenever they have recovered from disease infestation. And of course, we have to strengthen our extension assistance for all abaca, say for example, abaca supply chain. So with that note, we have, say for example, I have given you a concrete example to make good ideas happen or work that is a typical example of how a supply chain become very powerful and very useful tool in making sure that your intervention for improvement of a particular industry is targeted and focused. So with that note, I say thank you for this wonderful attention that you have, and we will continue with our previous lecture in uh, for example, in the next succeeding material. Thank you, and God bless you all.